Have you ever considered that we are living in a unique time, that something world-changing is about to happen, and that it might concern you? If so, you're in the right place. Keep listening, and you'll hear thought-provoking views behind the news that point to a new and better future for all. Many people now sense that humanity is not alone. So consider this. If the Christ or the Buddha walked among us today as modern men, would we recognize them? What would they be saying? And most importantly, would we listen? Every Sunday on this program, Share International Radio will examine extraordinary events that are unfolding behind the headline news. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. And now, welcome to this week's show.
Host Diana Gold Holland. And I'm cutting short the hellos today because we have such an exciting and program that I want to spend all our time on it. First of all, though, I want to tell you about a wonderful Christmas present I've just received, and it has to do with Cielito's extraordinary interview last week with Gerard Artson on the UFO phenomenon. Gerard has the most incredible website next to the Share International website that I have seen on information concerning the emergence, concerning the Space Brothers, concerning all kinds of things. It is an absolute treasure trove. It's called biblioteca.ga. We will be putting up the link to it on our Facebook page, so be sure to check that out. Biblioteca, biblioteca.ga. What's really interesting about that website is that it has lots of material of an esoteric nature by authors that have been working directly with the Masters of Wisdom, and a lot of that material is now out of print or very hard to attain, and you will find there PDFs of many of those things absolutely free. So I tell you, it's an absolute goldmine, and please go and check it out. If you Google Our Elder Brothers Return, it will take you to Gerard's site. That's Our Elder Brothers Return, and once again, please check it out. Another announcement is that we have changed the name on our Share of the Air Facebook page. You can now find us at Share on the Air Radio North America. So that's what to put into the browser window there. So, without further ado, now let me welcome our guest for today, Elisa Graf. She is an American writer, speaker, and English second language teacher living in Germany, and a longtime meditator and student of the Ageless Wisdom teachings. She has been volunteering with Share International for more than 20 years and is a good friend of mine. Now, since childhood, Elisa has had a strong interest in UFOs, and she had her first sighting of a UFO while living in Tokyo in December 1990 when she was in her 20s. Several next experiences occurred all at once of having ships telepathically interact with her in November 2008 when she was on a 10-day silent meditation retreat in rural California. Her letter about that was published in Share International magazine in March 2009, and we will put the link to that letter up for you to read it yourself, and that letter forms the basis of her show today. So another thing you can be following up. Now, Elisa brings her personal experience to the table, knowing what she knows from actual experience of the Space Brothers' humility, their love, their camaraderie. UFOs are not an abstract idea to her, but an experience that has generated a sense of awe, wonder, and love upon contact. So it's my very great pleasure to welcome today Elisa Graf. Hi there, Elisa. Sorry.
I just said it's a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. I've in just reminding of your bio. It reminds me of my first sighting, which occurred with you. So that was a very, very, very special moment. But enough about me. Why don't you recap for us that 10-day, that experience you had during the 10-day silent retreat and what it means for you?
Well, I want to start by saying that actually I was at this silent meditation retreat out in the middle of really very rural California near near Yosemite, actually. And it was on 100 acres. So we were in a really beautiful place. It was in November of 2008. Of course, I had no idea that I was going to have this kind of experience there. I went there to learn Vipassana meditation. It was a very intensive retreat, and it was very scheduled. So there was very minimal time to actually be outside because we were meditating about 10 hours a day. But the first night that I was there, I was just in awe looking up at the stars because there wasn't a lot of light pollution where we were. And so you could really see millions of stars, and it was just breathtaking, absolutely magical. And at 9 o'clock after our first meditation on the first evening, I walked outside, and it was cold, and a lot of people just left and went to their beds because we were all preparing for a 4 a.m. wake-up call the next day. But I was so enamored of these amazing stars. And so I stood and was looking at at this beauty. And I realized when I would stop and I would look at a star every now and then, it wasn't a star. It was hovering, and then suddenly it would get brighter and other lights would come on, and then it would move slowly across the sky and hang on a ridge on the hills across the valley from where I was. And I saw as many as 6 of those the first night. And I remember thinking, wait, that couldn't be a helicopter because there was no sound. It didn't really look, it could have been a plane, I thought, but there was really no sound and it was hovering. So that was pretty exciting. I was pretty amazed because I had seen a UFO, I thought, in Tokyo back in 1990 when I was living there. And it was like a triangular craft, but nobody else seemed to be looking at it. It was just me, and I was in a hurry to catch a bus, so I didn't get to spend too much time, but there was some afterglow coming out of it, and it really didn't look at all like a plane. But here I was, looking at this nighttime sky and seeing like many of these kinds of things, these phenomena, and I kept thinking, am I really looking at UFOs? This is amazing. I was very excited.
Yeah, I wondered how did that make you feel? I was stunned. I was really, it was just contemplating the possibilities. Of course, I couldn't speak to anybody. Nobody else seemed to be looking at them. But, I really had a hard time sleeping because I was just so excited thinking about it. So then the next day, I got up and we had a very intense program, as I said. And about 6 a.m. we would have breakfast. And so I went outside and walked 10 minutes to the center where we had our meals. And I was looking up the blue sky, and I noticed some small what looked to me like little white jets flying above. And every now and then they'd make a trail, but they didn't seem to be going anywhere. And I thought to myself, that's kind of odd. But I didn't really have a whole lot of time to look at them. I just, noticed them, and I thought my eye was drawn to them. And they seemed to also be able to start and stop their trails, or the trails weren't consistent. And so then, I kind of forgot about it, and I got back in step with the program. But every time I was outside for short periods, my eye would be drawn up, and I would be kind of looking at these small, what looked to me like small white jets. And they didn't seem to make any sounds, and they seemed to just be hanging about. They did not seem to be going in a specific direction to go, they didn't like fly from one end and then you lost sight of them. They were just sort of hanging around. So right. I would see usually one or two at a time. And at some point in the first or second day that I was at the retreat, I had this thought, maybe they're not jets. I'm not sure why, but I just thought, that's kind of curious. And so after a while, I kind of thought, they could be UFOs, I guess. And I thought I'd try an experiment. So
I'd have, periods of maybe a half an hour where I was outside taking a walk around a pond. And so I had this thought, I'm going to think a thought to them and see what happens. And I usually, as I said, I saw one or two at a time. Mm-hmm. And so I said, if you can hear my thoughts, I would like to see maybe 4 of you at once in one part of the sky at some point. And then I left it alone and I forgot about it. And the next day I was walking again out by the pond. And sure enough, my eye was drawn up and there were 4 of these small craft flying very close to one another in a way that jets don't fly near each other. So I thought, oh, wow, that's interesting. But of course, my mind was not fully accepting of this as a possibility. So I just thought, well, maybe I'm just imagining things. Maybe it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, and did you remember that you had asked for this?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
That's very odd. So then I thought, well, I'd really like to see you closer because I can't really make much out. You're so far away. They were flying very high and they seemed to be going very fast. Mm-hmm. And so then, I forgot about it again because we had this intense schedule. So I was back in the meditation hall the next morning at 10:30 in the morning. I suddenly was in meditation. I suddenly had this impulse to go outside. It was a really interesting experience because I was really focused on the meditation and suddenly I just said, oh, I have to go outside. So we were allowed to, leave the hall as needed. So I got up and I went outside. I was the only person outside and I was walking across the courtyard at 10:30 in the morning. And then one of these craft flew down fairly low over the trees. And there was no sound at all. And they seemed to have short wings. Like a shuttlecraft. And they were like a brilliant white light, white, bright color.
Elisa, you were talking about this contact being telepathic. Let's talk about this telepathy and the contact on the other side of the break. Fascinating. Okay. Dear listeners, please join us after the break.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Every night, when the skies are clear, a remarkable event can be witnessed. A UFO the size of 5 football fields is moving through the skies just like a star. It pulses, it blinks, it changes color. This spacecraft appeared before as the Star of Bethlehem. Find out what it all means. Visit shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
I'm Maggie Chula.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. Join us every week here on OMTimes Radio for Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Back. We're here with Elisa Graf talking about her experiences of telepathically connecting with spacecraft. We will have the link up to the letter about her experience that was published in Share International magazine. So please go to the Facebook and check that out for yourselves. So, Lisa, it was... tell us about the nature of this telepathic contact and telepathy in general from your point of view.
Well, I want to make it clear that I don't consider myself to be telepathic. At least, I think all of us have a latent capacity for it. I mean, I expect that at some point in the future we will develop it more accessibly. But essentially, I was at a meditation retreat, and it was a silent meditation retreat, which for anybody who's done one, it's an incredible experience, and noble silence. And so I was in a very heightened state of awareness. And I really think that was also another reason why I was more open to having an experience like this. Because I think in our daily lives, we're so sort of in our heads and so connected to the daily intensity of life that we don't really have the sensitivity to these kinds of potential experiences. But, this thing continued. And what happened for me after I first saw them gliding across the treetops, I sent another message and I said, can I see you make a cross, like an even-armed Aquarian cross in the sky, make a plus sign for me. And the next day I was walking along the path again, and one was flying alongside of the path I was on, and it made a line in the sky, and then another one flew across in front of me and made a line over me. So these kinds of experiences continued for the 10 days that I was at this retreat center. And as time went on and I began to realize that this was really happening, I started to really tune in even more, and I really felt a sense of, I guess, camaraderie, and a really beautiful sense of a blessing. This is a lot of people who've witnessed UFOs have had this experience. They feel it's like an amazing blessing is coming over them as they watch the Space Brothers. And I think the Space Brothers are very benevolent, and as many books have attested to, the contactees, especially those who are written up on Gerard's website, have explained that the Space Brothers are more spiritually and morally evolved than we are in many cases, and that they are very expressive of this awareness of their connection to everything and of brotherhood. And I really felt, in a way, I felt that it was being expressed in this connection that I had, and it was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, that was my experience that first time with you as well. The feeling of brotherhood, of absolute connection,
kinship.
Yeah, absolute kinship. Yeah, it was really remarkable. So it sounds like for many people that's a constant. At that conference, I remember that Benjamin Creme had a wonderful sentence. He said, and he knows well whereof we speak. By the way, folks, we will also put up a very fascinating interview that was had in 2004, I believe, with Chief Editor Benjamin Creme of Share International magazine on his experiences with the UFOs. He learned to drive a UFO in his 40s before he learned to drive a car. So that's kind of a interesting claim to fame. Anyways, check out his interview on our Facebook page as well. And getting back to that conference, he said this wonderful thing, which I'm sure you remember as well. The Space Brothers are gently touching the hem of our garment.
Yes, I do recall that very sentence. And I think it was in reference to crop circles that he said that. They've got this very gentle way of approaching us. They don't want to infringe our free will. They don't want to frighten us. They know that it's over.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Share International Magazine is unique in the world today. It draws connections that make sense between headline news and spiritual changes unfolding now on a global scale, and explains the forces driving those changes. It may be the message of hope you have been waiting for. Investigate for yourself at shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, sea-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living, where you can ride on the magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, welcome back. This hour is going by very, very quickly. And so, Elisa, I'd like us to speak now about the relationship of the UFO activity to the emergence of Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom at this time.
Well, it seems really clear to me that there's a direct correlation. I'm really grateful to have had a foundation myself in understanding the spiritual meaning behind the UFO phenomena through Benjamin Krem's and George Adamski's books, which draw these parallels. And I also want to say that I have great respect for Gerard Artson's books and his work. He's a consummate researcher, and he ties together these things beautifully in his works. It's so important to have this essential relationship between the increasing visible presence of the Space Brothers on our planet and the externalization of the Masters into our everyday world. It's the most tremendous event that's taken place on our planet ever. It's an incredible time that we're living through, and we're all very blessed to be here, I believe.
Yeah. Elisa, while we're talking about books, I would like to mention Mr. Krem's book as well, The Gathering of the Forces of Light, UFOs and Their Spiritual Mission. This is another of very, very good and informative book. It's not a long read, so it's quite enjoyable to go through. The first half of the book details Mr. Krem's own experiences with the UFO phenomena, and including his work with George Adamski, who was basically the poster child for the UFO phenomena that were so prevalent in the early 50s. He wrote 2 books that were runaway bestsellers in the United States, which just goes to show the amount of interest in this topic. That's Adamski. Mr. Krem himself has written over 16 books on basically Maitreya, his mission, and all kinds of information connected with the emergence of this great teacher at this time. So, the particular book that we're referencing now is The Gathering of the Forces of Light. Again, we'll put the link up for that, and that will give you lots of really good information. So back to the UFO activity, Elisa, I wonder if you might, for our listeners, touch upon the phenomenon of the star that they are connected with.
Yes, well, I think it was 2008. Was it also 2008, do you recall?
I'm not sure if it was 2008 or 2009, but it was around that time frame.
I think it was around Christmas of 2008, perhaps, that there was a press release put out by Share International about the star that we would be seeing in the near future at that time, an incredible star in the sky that would be bright and be seen both day and night all over the world. And soon after that announcement was made, there were suddenly YouTube reports, and actually news reports from all over the world showing that people were seeing the star. They didn't know what it was, but they were taking footage of it with cameras and also with video cameras. Sometimes you would see a pulsating on these videos on YouTube. You would see this close-up of this distant object, and it looked like it was flickering in different colors and changing size and shape a little bit. But people were really drawn to this in the sky, and they didn't know what they were looking at because they didn't necessarily know about this information. And a lot of that was collected by Share International magazine, and another video was actually produced showing a lot of these images by various people within the Share International group, showcasing the star. The star is actually 4 giant spacecraft made by different planets in our neighboring planets in our solar system. It is meant to be sort of a replica of the Star of Bethlehem, which was actually also not a star but a UFO. And I've actually had the great blessing of seeing the star, and that was confirmed. And it was also written up in Share International. Many people all over the world have seen the star. And in my case, it really honestly looked like it was close enough to touch. It was so bright, and it was unmistakable. So it's still visible in different places in the world. Actually, people have also filmed it during the day. So I recommend that people listening take the opportunity to look up and spend more time looking at the sky and see if they also have a chance to spot the star.
That seems to be a common thing. All of the sightings that I have had, were in the night skies, and where there was little to no light pollution. But with the star is visible in just even against the cityscape of light. Just to fill in a couple of details, and again, people can go to the shareinternational.org, share-international.org website and see many, many different views of the stars. It usually appears low in the sky. It's relatively large compared to most stars, and it's very lively. It sparkles, it twinkles, it changes color, it changes shape. It doesn't really look like a regular star, but you have to be looking at the sky to see it. You have to. You can notice it.
Most people aren't spending much time looking at the sky. I'm sure that was my experience as well. That we're all very busy with our lives, and but it's an incredible thing to have these experiences and to be alerted to the fact that there are these higher realities, and they're all these signs are meant to alert us to and give us a sense of hope, and to help us to tune into wonder and become aware of these higher realities and the fact that we're not alone and that we have extraordinary help. And that's, I think that's one of the most important things that I can tell people from my own experience, that there is something going on, and it's just a question of how much we're actually taking the time to not just contemplate but tune into it.
Absolutely. And then, of course, there's an opening that occurs there. There's an expansion in the heart area, I would say, when we do see any of these phenomena.
Yes, absolutely.
They're basically another kind of miracle, and which, of course, is our theme for next week's show. We'll be talking about that a little bit later in the program. But would you say, Elisa, that part of the reason you've had these experiences was basically that you were open to them?
I'm sure that's part of it. I think that, it's, as I said, I'm really lucky that I had this time to be at this meditation retreat, because in my daily life, I probably wouldn't have been as tuned in, and I think that was really the message to me, that I need to make more space to tune into this other reality, because we're kind of birthing a new reality on our planet. And I think the closer we can come to recognizing it as truth, as actually a true possibility, the more we can make it manifest. And of course, as I think George said this in his interview last week, that really it's incredibly important that we not only recognize our essential oneness, but that we make it manifest in our actions in the world. Because Maitreya will inspire us, all of humanity, to recognize our essential oneness and to see ourselves as brothers and sisters of one family. We will have an experience of that through his blessing to the world. And this will galvanize us to create a more just and humane world, but we ourselves have to build it. And I think that's one of the values of tuning into this other reality, that it's trying to sort of become reality in our manifest daily world.
Mm-hmm. And Benjamin Creme also talks quite a lot about the technology of light that the Space Brothers bring us as a gift.
Yes. George Adamski also spoke a little bit about it, I think. Actually, I'm thinking of the book, The Amazing Mr. Lettersworth, which was written as a piece of fiction by Sir Desmond Leslie, who was his co-author on his first book, and apparently was sort of inspired by George Adamski himself. And in that book, it outlines the Space Brothers bringing a technology of tremendous importance, the technology of light. They bring it to all of the nations on Earth at the same time through the aegis of the UN in that story. Benjamin Creme has said that until we renounce war, they can't give us this technology, but it'll be a technology that no one can own and sell, that it'll be available to all of us, and will give us free energy that comes from the sun, but not based on the solar energy that we have today.
Right. So that will help us to be able to accomplish, with this help, some of Maitreya's key priorities in being here now, which are food, shelter, education, and health care for everyone on the planet.
Exactly.
And as we look at our daily reality today, what a golden age that will be.
Yes. And it's hard to imagine right now companies not selling us power, electricity, having it available to all of us everywhere on the earth. Imagine if that were made manifest, how little social justice issues we would have. How there wouldn't be inequality in the world because everyone would have access. And so we have this golden civilization ahead of us, as Benjamin Creme has said. But of course, we have to build it. We have to make it happen.
Yeah. Great way to end this segment, Elisa. Dear listeners, please come back to us again on the other side of the break. We're talking with Elisa Graf on the spiritual mission of our Space Brothers.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Did you know that Share International Radio is more than just a podcast? If you're hungry for thought-provoking views behind the news, there may be a Share International event happening soon near you, providing a spiritual perspective you'll find nowhere else. To locate an event in your area, visit shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
Are you ready to shift your energy, consciousness, and limiting beliefs? Join me, Shefali Burns, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Shifting with Shefali here on OMTimes Radio. Shift the blocks, limitations, and negative energies that have kept you from experiencing a life filled with joy, peace, love, abundance, and happiness. Are you ready to shift with Shefali? Are you ready to shine your brilliance?
Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to our program on UFOs and their spiritual mission and their telepathic contact, their growing presence in our day-to-day world. In this particular segment, I want to talk about a couple of other things that people can see every day for themselves besides the star. Let's start with the crop circles, which most people know about. Elisa, what would you like to add about them?
Well, they've been of course occurring all over the world. We just had a really amazing one. I live in Germany now, and we had a beautiful one in southern Germany that a lot of German people that I know actually went all the way down to visit. It's pretty far away from here, and people were very inspired. The farmer of that field, I think it was a wheat field, was very accommodating. Mm-hmm. And people spent a lot of time hanging out. It was quite a large, I don't know how big the diameter was, but it was absolutely gorgeous. If you just Google Southern German crop circle, you can probably find it online. It was a beautiful design. So the crop circles, according to Benjamin Krem, are not only the calling cards of the Space Brothers, and in many cases in England, because Maitreya is actually living in London, but also that they are occurring in the same place frequently because they're sort of energizing various points of like chakras on our planet. It has also to do with this coming technology of light, and so that's what I remember Benjamin saying about them.
I remember that too. I went to actually visit some of them in Avesbury, England, which is a very famous spot for them, and it was quite an experience to walk in a crop circle. And one thing that really touched me was, we had touched upon harmlessness as one of the guiding principles of the Space Brothers, and when I was in those crop circles, you could see that the wheat had been bent to, form those patterns, but it wasn't really harmed in any way. It wasn't, nothing was burned or singed or cut or, any of those things. The patterns were just very gently bent over, stalks and what have you, and actually walking in those patterns as well was very. It helped you with this stillness that you talked about earlier. To be able to sort of detach from our busy lives and busy minds and be present to the phenomenon. Yes. There was something about the whole atmosphere that led very, very well into that. And of course, people can Google all kinds of patterns, and it's interesting to see how much more intricate they've become over the many years they've been happening.
Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that people think that human beings are making all of these crop circles, which in some cases appear in, while people are actually in the fields, and suddenly, there's a crop circle there. There have often been people. I've also heard accounts of people actually thinking that the pattern. A group of Japanese tourists once thought the pattern, and then it occurred, in the field.
Oh.
So there's all kinds of interesting phenomena associated with the crop circles. I'm sure that there may be somebody out there experimenting with making them, besides the Space Brothers, but the intricate designs, the size of them, is pretty remarkable. It's really quite incredible for anybody who hasn't already seen a crop circle, at least online. And I've also heard accounts of people visiting them and saying that the energy is quite amazing. Mm-hmm. I haven't been in one myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's move on to the circles of light, or the crosses of light now, which fewer people may know about.
Well, you're talking about the crosses of light that occurred, the real crosses of light in glass windows all over the world. Is that what you're
well, there's about? That, but you know what? I'm sorry, I misspoke. Let's talk about the circles of light.
Right, the patterns of light or circles of light.
Right, the patterns connected with the crop circles.
Yeah, they're actually connected with the Space Brothers as well. According to Benjamin Crumb, they're actually produced in tandem with Maitreya. And the Space Brothers have been, they require the reflection of a window, but on a building where there hasn't been a specific pattern of these before, suddenly there's this incredible pattern of these circles of light. Sometimes they have different shapes inside of them. And I have a little story to tell, which is that I was one of the people developing a co-housing community to live in with 30 other households in Northern California. And in 2003, the buildings were completed. We had construction going on. And we were invited to finally go in by ourselves when the fences came down, because previously we'd had to go on with a tour. And I went there when nobody was there on that day that it was announced we could go. And when I walked onto the property, there were circles of light on many of the buildings. And because I'd heard about them just in the previous few years, because they became a well-known phenomena and were often printed in photographs in Share International magazine, I really was very excited and inspired, and, goosebumps I get goosebumps when I remember seeing them for the first time on many of the buildings. And I looked up at the sky and I said, I know somebody up there made these. I want to know who it is,
Well, I got to tell you, I feel joy every time I see one, and I encourage our listeners to go to the Share-International at Share SHARE-International.org website, because there are many, many pictures there of these circles of light, and people can then see what they look like, and then just in your regular everyday walkabout town on a sunny day, there's a very good chance that you might see them. They are literally all over the place. They look like, reflections of dappled sun, but they have these particular patterns. And like I say, once you've seen the pattern, once you recognize it, you can find it in your town. I am absolutely positive. They are literally everywhere. Again, as you say, when you know what you're looking at. And again, these are a gentle calling card dropped by those who are here to help us, to just let us know that they're here in this very, very subtle way. And so please go ahead and check this out, find the pattern, and then keep your eyes open as you go about your business.
Yeah, there's so much to be delighted by, actually. We keep our eyes open to remind us that there's so much more going on. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. And so basically the take on the circles of light is that they are the urban equivalent of the crop circles. Not everybody can go out and, get themselves to a crop circle area, but these circles of light can be seen in any town. So that's really considerate.
There are letters to the editor in Share International also that have noted. In fact, I think they're in the Gathering of the Forces of Light, Benjamin Krem's book, as well. There are questions and answers where people have seen the pattern in the circle change, or sometimes the circles of light disappear for a while and then they return and they're a different shape. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people have noted interesting things associated with the circles and patterns of light.
Right. Sometimes they just appear at certain times of day or certain times of year. Some of them are constant for years on end, as long as it's a sunny day. So there are many, many things happening with that. I hope we have time to continue talking, Elisa, but let me talk a little bit about next week's program while we're at it, just in case we get cut off. And I want to lead into that with the picture you sent me of these circles of light on a house nearby your place. Again, we'll put that up on our Facebook page, and you can see that basic pattern there. And this is right next door to your house.
Yes.
So that's really cool. So just briefly, in keeping with the holiday season, next week's show is on miracles happening all over the world. And this from milk-drinking statues in India to healing waters springing up in various parts of the world. And of course, we'll be talking about this new facsimile of the Star of Bethlehem again. Our guest is Frances Oman. She is an award-winning videographer and the producer of this show. She's also known as the Miracle Maven because she has 30 years experience in documenting these miracles. And she suggests that all of them are modern-day miracles, and more are associated with the emergence into the world of Maitreya, the world teacher, and the Masters of Wisdom being kind of like modern-day magi. So that will be, again, continuing on the theme of awe and wonder that contact with our space brothers evokes. We're just about out of time, Elisa. Is there anything else that you would like to share with, or last words you would like to share with our listeners?
I think I would just encourage people to keep an open mind and keep an open heart and recognize that the space people are our brothers and sisters, and that there's remarkable things happening on our planet at this time. And we are all very grateful and lucky to be here so that we can be part of this transformation taking place on our planet. And thank you for letting me share my message.
That's great last words. Couldn't have said it better myself, Elisa. Basically, in wrapping up, all I need to say now is best wishes for the holiday period, however you celebrate it. We'll see you next week for miracles occurring all over the world. Bye for now.